Welcome back to the Old Colony Cast, a podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas. I am one of your hosts, Andy, joined by other host, Hanna.
Hello.
And by our, I didn't think of a good, our always present editor. That's lame.
I'm not.
Our lame editor, Fish. He's a good guy. He just has a bad limp. Hannah laughs at my jokes. It's great.
That's why she's the other host.
It is why she's on the show.
Forget all the research she does. She laughs at Andy's jokes, so we kept her around.
Honestly, it's not untrue.
Yeah.
So this, for listeners, this is our third episode that we're sitting and recording in a row. And to take some of the burden off of Hannah, I have researched, and that's my notes.
So I suppose Hannah should ask then.
Yeah.
I know. So what are we talking about today?
Well, so two of my Facebook friends have posted about this recently, and it made me think of my dad.
Okay.
So it's very much of his not really even of his generation, but he would, somehow would come up a lot. Are you guys familiar with Kilroy Was Here?
Yes.
What did you just say?
Kilroy?
Yeah.
So
No,
it was
not.
like the first meme.
Yeah.
It was graffiti that people would see about, and it's basically like think of like a simple drawing of someone peeking over a wall. So there's like hands on either side, and a simple drawn head that was either like bald or had a couple of hairs coming out of it, and a big nose that would like hang over the wall. And above it or underneath it would say Kilroy Was Here. So it became popular during World War II and was typically seen as graffiti. And most of it was implied to be graffiti that GIs would do. So like after they would take a town, someone would draw Kilroy Was Here. And that's kind of like how it came into popularity in pop culture. But weirdly, it's kind of like an amalgam of like a bunch of different things, and like Australia had their version, and the drawing itself is thought to be called Chad or Mr. Chad, which is a English cartoon based on something similar. It was a British cartoon in the 1938 that they believe predated Kilroy, and so they believe that it's like sometime during the war, like when the U.S. soldiers were stationed over there, that they added the Kilroy Was Here name, and that's where it became. But it also goes by names like Clem, Flywheel, Private Snoops, Overby, Eugene the Jeep, which became a Popeye character.
Oh, so wait, that came before the Popeye?
I don't know.
Because I know that's where we got like Jeeps from.
Yes. Skabooch, Sapo, and SOME, which I want to say is Smoo, which that was also like a cartoon character.
Wait, SOME?
SMOE.
Oh,
Okay.
I was like, that's
That's some.
Yeah, no. Like Shmoo was like a cartoon character that was in a bunch of things, including like some Flintstone episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or just lumping that all in my head.
Can I jump ahead?
Yeah, please do.
What does this have to do with us?
Well, I'll get there.
Okay.
Stop jumping to the end, man.
I needed to know.
Yeah, Hannah, that's not how jumping ahead works on the show. What you
usually you have to be like, oh, that's because of this, and then I throw up my
I have
notes.
no, I have no knowledge of this, so I can't.
Yeah, we don't. That's never stopped us.
But in some of the
just say things and they'll be right.
Yeah.
That's how this goes.
So it was like during the World War II, it was like very common to see on soldiers' attire and tanks and airplanes. And part of what it had become is the challenging part of people would put it in like the most obscure places. I think I'm jumping ahead of my own notes. But it has been on the moon, the Arc de Triomphe, There's two different stories that I saw here of Lennon visiting.
Yeah.
And one said he was coming out of a VIP bathroom.
Visiting here, like the States?
Yes, the States. And the other was that he was coming out of an outhouse built for Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. And he walks out and goes, "Who's Kilroy?"
Oh, that's funny.
So it kind of became like who could get it in the weirdest spot. Almost like it's part street art, part meme,
like
part challenge. Yeah. And the Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable says it's associated specifically with the Air Transport Command, which was based out of the UK and would explain how the Chad character came to meet the name. Because the Chad character, the drawing itself, predated Kilroy Was Here. But then Kilroy Was Here was added in later.
Gotcha.
And they believe that came out of England. And they say some of it was as early as the 1939. Now I'm doing the Hanna thing. And according to one story, that the Germans had captured some U.S. Army equipment, and that somehow Hitler became convinced that Kilroy is like code for some sort of like elite American spy.
Oh, that's funny.
And like he was marking where he had been.
Like elite spies do.
Yeah. Again, it's a story.
Taunting.
So that's
I know, but I just love the I'm a high end spy. I'm going to make sure everyone knew I was here.
There was even a drawing in an abandoned barn that had been burned. So on the charred wall, someone used white chalk and did Kilroy Was Stuck Here, and that was in the Battle of the Bulge in Bastogne. So like this, it was literally everywhere.
Yeah.
And then even like a saying, every country kind of had their own variation. There was Foo Was Here, which actually kind of predates it, and was kind of like a gremlin character that the Royal Australian Air Force would kind of like mark on their transports. And exactly why they were drawing, I don't know. It didn't really say why they would draw it, but like if it's a gremlin, like maybe if there was some sort of issue with the vehicle, that was kind of like how you mark that. And again, like I said, there's all these different variations. The shmoo, however you want to say that, was implied that it said that SMOE stood for Sad Men of Europe. And it was all like heavily based around the war, which was weird because like my dad was like Vietnam vet era, so like I don't know if that carried over.
Yeah, right.
But it would kind of like come back and go away, and it became like a repeated thing and related to like pop culture. Like if you look in the Wikipedia, there's all these different references. Like it was mentioned in MASH and all these other like almost like if you were doing something of the time that you're like, oh, let's put Kilroy Was Here to make it seem like it was of the time.
I wonder if I've seen it in things and like not known that I've seen it because I didn't know what it was.
I'll show you. So this, I mean, it's a super crude drawing.
I looked them up. I looked it up already, but it's not coming to my memory at all.
So to circle back to your initial question, is like, what the heck does it have to do with us? There is one theory, and then there's the true story.
Okay.
So some believe that Kilroy was Sergeant Francis J. Kilroy Jr. from Everett, and that he became ill with the flu, and he wrote the phrase, Kilroy will be here next week, implying that he was going to be stuck there while his platoon got deployed. So some say that is how that phrase, like, it was never intended to be anything, and somehow it just became like repeated and like all memes, like it just spreads.
Right, of course.
So, yeah. So his continuing blah, blah, shortened phrase. And so he would ship out a month later, and according to the AP account, other airmen soon picked up on the Kilroy. It's like once you see it done, like suddenly everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
That is not considered the official story. So in 1946, the American Transit Association sponsored a nationwide contest through its radio program, Speak to America. And it was basically, will the real Kilroy step forward? And if someone came forward and could prove that they were the real Kilroy, they were giving them a trolley car.
Oh.
Which is cool and weird.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do with it. It'd be more of a burden for me.
Yeah. So, like, almost 40 men claimed to be the genuine Kilroy, but only one provided the necessary evidence.
Oh.
And that was James Kilroy from Halifax.
Oh, another mass guy.
Yeah. So it is very mass related.
Yeah.
He was 46, and he worked the Four River Shipyard in Quincy.
Oh.
And he wasn't like I don't want to like dog him. Like he wasn't a physical laborer.
Yeah.
Like he was more like an accounting position.
Okay.
Where his job was to count the number of rivets.
So he was an inspector.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the riveters got paid by the rivet.
Yeah.
And he would use like a chalk.
Yeah.
Like a lumber chalk to mark off, like, so he didn't double count rivets. And like,
Yeah.
You know, 1, 2 as he counted. And then he found out that riveters would go back and like somehow erase his marks to try and get double paid. So to make it a little more difficult, he would write, Kilroy was here. So he knew like what he had counted, what he hadn't counted. Because it was during wartime and there was such a push to get these ships out, that a lot of these spaces that didn't necessarily have to be painted weren't being painted.
Gotcha.
So these soldiers
like showing
being
up.
deployed on these ships to go to Europe would see all over the ship in weird places that you wouldn't be able to normally get to because he was like inspecting the rivets in all the weird spots.
Yeah.
They would just see Kilroys here like all over the ship. So it became like their way of kind of letting, you know, old Jerry know that we're here. And then when they got stationed over in England, somehow the drawing became attached to it. And so the two things became paired together, the drawing and Kilroy was here. And there were even, and it went all over Europe and the South Pacific, and there were even claims that invading forces would show up and there would already be drawings on the wall that would say Kilroy was here. And some of the interesting places that it has been found on Mount Everest, the Statue of Liberty.
Oh my God.
The underside of the Arch de Triomphe, and then dust from the moon. And then I told you the story about I saw one spot that said the outhouse built for Roosevelt, which seems weird. And the other said like a VIP bathroom, but both said that Stalin came out and was like, who's Kilroy?
Yeah.
So it was very...
well, I suppose if the outhouse was at like Camp David.
Yeah, was that? I mean, I don't know. Is it weird that I'm thinking that they would have indoor plumbing at this point? Like World War II?
No, there was indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just...
I mean, at a presidential, it's not like... I don't know. It just seems weird. And it's the two ends of the spectrum. One says VIP bathroom. The other says outhouse. It's strange.
Well, I figured, because I vaguely remembered, I double-checked this. Camp David was founded by FDR.
Yeah.
So if it was, like, not fully...
FDR was cool.
He'd poop in the woods?
I mean, well, no, that's why he had an outhouse.
Yeah.
No,
What
but
I'm saying
but you know what I'm
is-
saying? It's just weird that, like, I don't know. I'm not saying it's not. It's just the two stories, polar opposites.
I think outhouse and VIP can be the same.
Maybe. And the thing is, their term
To be honest.
their term for outhouse might be a little different than what I'm thinking. But like,
Well, I don't know if it's like a hole with a seat or if it's it's the presidential outhouse, but
it's exterior from the building and it's the rest.
It's
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just the plumbing runs out there because this part of the area doesn't have.
Again, I wasn't. It just seemed weird that a president would have an outhouse in that time.
I've been in some nice outhouses.
Me thinking of an outhouse being like the wooden shack that you see cowboys
Yeah.
go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's who it is. He's a Halifax native.
Cool.
And the one question that I'm sure is like really scratching your brain is he did win the trolley car, and he gifted it to his 9 children
Okay.
as a Christmas present that he like set up in the yard as a playhouse.
That is so cool.
So I kind of was like, oh, is there still like a weird trolley in someone's yard in Halifax?
Oh my God, that would be so neat.
But yeah, so super local.
I'll have to ask about that.
So Jeff Cohen, who runs One Stop Paint, who sponsored our event, posted about it, and then Jim Casey posted about it.
Yeah, I saw Jim post about it,
and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting because again, my dad would talk about it, and
like it was basically one of the first.
It was the first meme.
It was
yeah, really, and
like,
so the first meme is based from Halifax of all places, right up the street.
Yeah, so by some guy who just didn't want to double pay. God, why they paid by the rivet?
It's
just the thing.
I don't know.
Like it just seems, yeah,
because they didn't have a good union then.
And it's like, oh, we're paying you by the rivet, so you just gotta. I mean, I get
so. Therefore, your work is going to be perfection and not rushed in any way, shape, or form.
It's like it's fine, guys. We're not.
But I mean, at the time, like they were really trying to rush.
Yeah.
So maybe that was part of.
Yeah, it was
the idea.
like encouraging.
But yeah, just then to think that there's one guy that has to be like checking, which I'm sure they hated him because
he was the guy. Yeah.
They counted something, he counted something else, and but then he became like the first,
he went
girl setting dumpster on. He went viral.
He went viral. Yeah, he went. He literally went viral. Well, not literally viral, but like
as much as he could.
As what we would consider viral now.
Yeah,
like, I mean, he was. I mean, there are movies with the title of Kilroy and the reference to Kilroy in the title. I mean, it was like, like everyone knew it.
Like it was in MASH.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was everywhere.
Can you imagine something you wrote and Stalin asks about it? Like, I mean, everybody knew about it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
It's like you wrote it down, like something you wrote, and now
someone else copied it.
And now
put it
Hitler thinks you're a super spy.
Yeah, or it's on the moon. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone.
It's just crazy.
Your work is someone's parroting you. That is wild.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
I'm glad you picked that topic.
I'm like, oh, I should add this to the list. And then we were talking about recording again. I'm like, or I can just research it.
I'm so glad you shared it because it sparked the episode that I was going to do. Beautifully. I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, set it up for next time?
Yeah.
In like a month and a half.
Come back, listener, for the return of Kilroy or something. No?
It's just a good segue.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I segue without meaning to so well.
Yeah.
It's like a natural born talent. It's like,
well, we've seen what happens when Hanna tries, and it just doesn't go well.
I was like, what is this?
But and that was the thing is like, because like I said, my dad would talk about it. So I was very curious if you guys even knew about it.
I knew a bit. Like I heard it was one of those like original kind of meme things. Like
it was very graffiti.
Kilroy is
street
here.
Art.
Obey.
Yeah, it's very much like Obey.
Frodo lives.
Yeah. Very much like that.
It just popped up in places where it shouldn't have, and
yeah,
like a big part. And I don't know if Kilroy ever became that kind of like 60s counterculture thing. Like it
was over by that point.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And it's surprising that like your dad, who would have come up in more of the Frodo lives era.
Yeah. But see, the thing was, it was never part of counterculture.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It was more part of like the military industrial complex, kind of like that inside, if you listen to like,
it's like inside baseball kind
of thing.
like
if you listen to Soldiers Talk, they have like their own terminology.
Of course. Every group does.
Yeah. So it very much is like of that ilk that it was really interesting. Now, I'm curious to see, like, Hanna, if you start to see it in references.
That's what I mean, because I'm like, I was obsessed with World War II, like, documentaries when I was little. I still like that stuff. So
that's when the History Channel was airing them.
Yeah, so I think, like, I'd like to go look at some, like, more recently made things of that time and see if it's, like,
or even just like, I'm curious
out.
to, like, you know how that happens, like, once you hear about something, it just shows up everywhere.
Yeah, it's what they call it, like the Beatle effect or whatever.
The Beatle effect?
Like, well,
like John, Paul, George, and Ringo?
No, like the car, like you talked about Beatles.
Yeah.
And then,
so true.
When I got my Mini Cooper,
like when you got your Mini Cooper, all of a sudden everyone had a Mini Cooper.
Yeah,
it's like you just like it's not something you've ever.
Yeah. No, me and Donnie literally. I said
before, but you've seen it all the time.
We should start playing Punch Buggy again, and I'm not joking. I can't stop seeing Beatles again.
Yep, they're everywhere.
Yeah, because we were like, I haven't seen one in a while. They're everywhere still.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I guess this is the part where we stop talking.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. So thanks again for listening.